What's up, folks? Casual Dad here, coming to you with another Warhammer Combat Cards campaign video. Today, talking about the Battle of Port Demesnus. And this is a great one for me. It's Aeldari. So you play Aeldari versus Space Marines. You play, the modifier is you get your 400 deck points and your max number of bodyguards, and then also everything is max level, which, my two favorite modifiers. It's also Apocalypse, which says, and this is no joke, event difficulty is significantly harder than normal. So I actually put together some strategy tips on this, and I did something a little bit unusual. So I'm going to actually run through exactly what I'd use to beat each of the warlords and who is at each phase. So this is your spoiler warning. If for whatever reason you don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to know what each stage is, then go ahead and tune me out for a couple minutes here. So let's see, round one, I actually don't remember who it is, so hopefully you do know that one. I didn't write that down. Round two is Akaran, which is a particularly challenging match. And to beat Akaran, I used this deck. That is Illic Nightspear, who has the ability where if you hit a card for over 60% of its health, let's see, yeah, if you hit it over 65% or more of its base health as range damage in a single turn, it will just be destroyed outright, which is really good against Akaran because it will either trigger his second life a turn early, or will outright, if you do lethal damage to it, then when that second life triggers, it will then kill it off of that second life. So extremely handy. And note that that can happen multiple times. It might be a bug, but when I actually finished this match, I had a card in the wings that hit Akaran to do the lethal to take him down to his second life, and then Illic himself hit him with multiple shields still up and did enough to actually trigger the second lethal removal. I don't know exactly how that worked. Maybe it's because it's Akaran, it can trigger twice if two different cards hit it, and it counts as having 5 base health, so if you do 3 or more, it kills him. I don't know, but as they say, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I just took that as a win. Number 3 is Artemis. Captain Artemis, and for that I used the Avatar. And I'm going to look at these decks in a little bit more detail in a minute, but I used the Avatar for that one. And the Avatar is a really, really strong piece in this because a max level Avatar is utterly terrifying. And also, this is a really good campaign to run melee, and I'll talk about why a bit more in a second. So I beat with the Avatar. And one key thing here is I saved the Solitaire in the back to close, especially against Artemis, because he has that target acquired in the end. If you can put the Solitaire in front of him and get him to target that, its Death Blow will basically kill him. And if you play them on the same turn, its Furious Charge and Death Blow certainly will kill him. So that was really, really good. The fourth match is Tolmeron. Used the same deck with the Avatar. Fifth is Logan. And I did the same with the Avatar. One thing about running this, and this is what I was going to say before, is if you run a really hard melee force, the AI automatically tries to take the best possible outcome attacks, even if those don't use its traits very well. So if you're running against Logan with this deck, the AI will use ranged more often than not because it doesn't want to go melee with you because it will be an even trade at best. So that's cool. So playing a deck that's very themed towards the opponent's strongest attack stat can help kind of push these games through a little bit by discouraging your opponent from using their most powerful attacks. Number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, number 6 was Helbrecht, and I also used the Avatar to beat that. And then the one after that was Guilliman 1, so round 7. I'm actually going to go ahead and number these while I've got the numbers on there, but I used Lelith for that, and I used a ranged Lelith that was all ranged attackers. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And I'm on the final round here, but let's go ahead and run through everything else. Shouldn't be a ton of surprises here. So after round 7, that was Guilliman. I did Lelith. 8 was Azrael. I did Lelith again. That one was very easy. Guilliman was close, but that one was very easy. Number 9 is the Lion himself, and that one I beat with Eldrad, which was really great because Eldrad uses the Psychic. So whatever you use, whatever warlord you use in this, I strongly recommend including your area effect psychers. Those being these two down here. This guy and this guy. If you do have trouble stripping shields, try to fit those into your deck because those two are really, really good at removing shields effectively because they'll take out 2 shields per turn, which is huge against some of these matches. Doesn't have to be Eldrad, though. Eldrad was actually very tricky. I believe this is the only round I won with Eldrad. Number 10 is Helbrecht, where I used the Avatar again. And like I was saying, Helbrecht is a really heavy melee warlord, and if you stack your deck with powerful melee, especially with the Avatar where they bump up a bit, the AI will be discouraged from hitting you in melee, which is what Helbrecht wants to get the most out of his deck. So, and then it was Akaran round 2, which I also did with the Avatar, which is a little surprising. And then Artemis number 2 was also the Avatar. Azrael number 2, Avatar. Voldus, round 14 was Voldus, I believe the first Voldus, although he may be round 1 too. And I did the Avatar again, and that one was really easy. I've got cake written in my notes here. Round 15 is Tolmaron 2, and this one was very, very hard. That was my first really wall, was at round 15, and I did that with Illic. And this one is really draw dependent. If he plays, there are 2 Space Marine cards that are utterly absurd. Let me go ahead and jump to this. And you will see them quite a bit in this, and you do want to watch out for them. That's Servants, I clicked the wrong one. There we go. We are talking about some of those super heavies. Most of the stuff, it's like it's super heavy, whatever. You've got max level cards, it's not that terrifying. But these two, this one in particular, if Tolmaron's first play is this card, you've basically lost the round. Just because it's got that base 109, no, excuse me, it's got base 230 ranged, and if it gets plus 20% every time he plays another card, that racks up real fast. And since this is 400 points, you'll have a lot of 40 plus point cards, and that big game hunter comes in clutch. And of course, this has max shields. So it gets to the point where pretty much anything you put in front of this will die in one turn, no matter what. And there's just not, it takes just not long enough to take the other stuff down aside from this, that's a problem. So this guy or this guy, if either one of those is the first drop that Tolmaron does, this one has a decent range. Well, yeah. Just because they start with extremely high range and are very, very difficult to remove, but also because they protect their other cards, either by killing your cards very quickly or like this does, having taunt. It's very difficult to deal with these if they're the first drops. So again, with Illic, I wrote the note that this was draw dependent. If these are played late, you should have cruised through some of the other stuff with enough cards left in your deck to go ahead and finish them off. And they won't have the maximum attack stats they can otherwise. So that's a thing. I didn't beat that round until I got lucky on a draw, and Tolmaron played those cards late instead of first. Round 16 is Logan 2, and that was the Avatar again. It was relatively straightforward. Round 17 was another fairly challenging one. That was against Helbrecht, and on that one I have a note that I readied a lot, because as much as I talked about the AI not wanting to melee into a really strong melee wall, you don't want to melee into a strong melee wall either. So you'll notice that my Avatar deck has a couple Psychers in it. It's got this guy in here. I believe I also at the time had the AoE Psycher as well. So you can play a little bit of psychic damage to help kind of bolster your forces, clear shields, kind of do some extra there. I have subbed a couple cards in or here and there, in or out. These 3 are kind of changeable. These 5 are absolutely clutch, and I used in every single game. They are really phenomenal in this. So that was a big one. Round 18 was Artemis 3. This also was really challenging, and for this one I actually switched to a melee Lelith. Excuse me, I actually did the next 2 rounds with the same melee Lelith, just to go ahead and drop this. I was finding that melee was particularly effective against basically all of these, because even the melee heavy warlords did mix in range stuff, which actually made them weaker. So like Logan wasn't as challenging as he normally would be. Helbrecht wasn't as hard as he could be because they had a bunch of shooting cards in there. So going really largely melee with a little bit of extra stuff in here was really helpful. And I've got these 2 Psychers in here that help kind of give me some alternative attack types. There was one Psyker in the Lion deck, and it wasn't a very good one. I did appreciate that the Lion decks are very, very thematic. They're almost entirely Dark Angels, which is cool. Which also means they don't have some of the really powerful cards that the other Warlords have, so that was nice. Really good, just to kind of talk through why I chose to use what when. Eldred is a heavy Psyker, which is good. I didn't find his ability terribly useful, just because you're taking so much fire and he takes a little bit of time to get going. I ended up losing my cards before he was really able to finish. So I don't necessarily recommend Eldred for any of these. The Avatar is really, really strong for the things I mentioned. The Avatar itself is an exceptional closer. The ramping melee really helps over the course of the game. Just going pure melee is very effective against a lot of these opponents. And then some of the melee cards are really phenomenal. This guy, Furious Charge, Big Game Hunter, is under 40 points, so he doesn't take Big Game Hunter back. Awesome. Also good hit points for the cost. Of course, Chainzar has max level Fear, which is extremely powerful, also has that Furious Charge, so she can hold down a lane and actually take some hits from the power pieces. And in an Avatar deck, her damage does ramp. And then these three I kind of put in there. This guy I really appreciated. He was really good. That Big Game Hunter with the Barrage is extremely effective, has a ton of hit points. Is also a piece I used to strip shields. So I'd use him to strip shields or take out injured cards in the wing so that that card in that lane could then cross-shoot into the lane that he was in. And that was very, very helpful. But he also has a melee attack, so he can be effective in that case. The Incarn was really good because it's extremely durable and it has the double lives. So not only because I could have used it as a psychic battery to clear shields and do damage in between melee turns, but it could just take an absolute wallop and usually was still with me through the majority of the game. Unless I got unlucky with a Big Game Hunter, but even then, it's got so many hit points if you're doing some debuffs and some outflanks. You can keep this thing alive for a long time and then hopefully ramp up that melee attack a bit. And it's got max level Endless, so even if it dies, the next life comes in with, I believe, full... Yeah, so the follow-up has full health and still has that same base melee, which is still extremely strong, even if you lose the avatar buffs you'd had on the first copy. This guy actually was a surprise winner. The Furious Charge was really nice, the Outflank was really nice, he's got the melee, and again, like I mentioned with some of the others, he doesn't trigger Big Game Hunter, so I would use this guy a lot to drop in and give me a couple extra turns of breathing room against those Big Game Hunters before my 40-plus point cards could get in there and really make a mess of it. And then also the Avatar himself, again, is just like one of the best endgame finisher cards in the game. He's absolutely phenomenal. But I did find that you better not have an open lane, because usually if there's an open lane with something able to shoot at him, it's got a bunch of attacks, and Big Game Hunter often has target acquired on your Avatar in those really challenging matches. So he's really good, but he's also a lot more fragile than he would be in your average normal match. Now, Illic, of course, I talked a little bit about why he's extremely good. Just the ability to remove cards early is really good at keeping your cards alive and also removing scary things on the board as quickly as possible. So this guy, of course, being absolutely clutch, you get that precision shot, and then he can follow up on your turn with a hit. So you play him on your turn, hit for like 400 damage, which will be more than 65% health on most things, unless they're heavily shielded, which did happen. But still really good for removing power pieces quickly. This guy, of course, terrific for removing shields, but then also does have the not unimpressive ranged attack of basically 100. Similar for this guy. Has more hit points, also has the melee, but really I bring him for that area effect psychic and then also having some ranged. This one was good too, just because 110 and max Big Game Hunter makes a big difference. But the combination of cost and hit points was one of the lower performers, but still did definitely make an impact. And it's one of the better pieces to put in here, just because sometimes you get those perfect shots. And then this guy, of course, Illic's ability does read that it's in the same turn, not from the same attack. So if you stack with high damage barrage cards, that can help kind of push cards over that limit to where you are dealing enough damage to get that Illic threshold and kill things quickly. So I do have several barrage cards in here. This one, this guy, and this guy. Mogan Ra, having that precision shot and barrage is so good. Not only does he clear shields phenomenally well, but he does a lot of damage and can, again, trigger Illic's ability. But just that combination of being able to hit like that is so good. It lets you clear lanes on your turn, it lets you clear shields, it lets you hit taunt and then still do some adjacent damage. It's really good. Which actually brings me to the final Warlord, which is, of course, Lelith. And just to recap, her ability is when a friendly card kills an opposing card, it returns to your hand, or returns to your deck. May not be your hand, that's important to note. Up to twice, I believe. So you can play each card 3 times. Yes, maximum 2 times. So you play once, and then you can bounce it twice. And so you see I've got a lot of Furious Charge in here. You got Furious Charge here, here, and here. Then we've got that Precision Shot on him. We've got some heavy Psychers, again, to pull those psychic damage. And then this guy, of course, with that Barrage, which really makes him easy to pull back because he can kill off-lane cards. So you can do a bunch of damage, kill something off-lane, and pull back to your hand to avoid taking a hit back. So very fast, very strategic play that I really enjoy. And you want cards that hit extremely hard and also have some impact when they're redeployed. Now, I have a couple that don't, like the Avatar doesn't do anything when redeployed, neither does this guy, but they have their own utility, of course, in just what they are. So we are in the final round. I'm going to go ahead and try it with this deck and see how it goes. So yeah, Avatar, Illic, and then Lelith were really the only 3 Warlords I used. I didn't touch Zephyrblade or Rakarth. Rakarth because I figured his life gain would be so minimal over the course of a game, just because you don't really get that many kills. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he would be a really terrific one. But I got a lot more, I think, use out of the other stats and abilities. Illic is very challenging, where his ability is extremely strong, but it is very draw dependent and order dependent, where if Illic ever hit the board on the opponent's turn, or when you couldn't kill the opponent in a single turn, or when the Warlord wasn't on the board, that was basically an auto loss. I didn't win a single game where that happened. The only times where I won close games are when I played Illic when the Warlord was on the board, and then his target acquired could help take that out, or his dead shot. Again, found Eldrad somewhat underwhelming. Avatar was exceptional and really got me through most of this, but Lelith was a pretty close second. I think two Warlords I beat with Illic, one with Eldrad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 with the Avatar, and then so far 5 with Lelith. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So it might be 6, we'll see. I'm assuming it's going to be Guilliman himself, and probably a horrifyingly scary thing. We'll check. Hopefully get it in the first try, but that never happens. I will say I did spend quite a bit of plasma on this one. Alright, it's Rowboat himself. Now, I will say the first Rowboat I went up against was actually not that bad, but that was the first one. And deploying first is always a bit of a bummer, so you don't really know where I'm going to play things. Okay. Now, I'm concerned about the... Oh, there it is. Concerned about the hit he can give me. Let's see. And it is my turn, so that's good. We're going to go ahead and go here. The precision shot next to barrage will help me. Ooh, ha! Will help me land and do take out 2 shields in the first turn. But I'm unlikely to get any kills here, which is going to be a real bummer. And it sucks that Tigurius is on the table, but of course he is, because him being on the table means that I'm not going to be able to do Psychic. Woof. Alright, alright. Jane Czar survived. Sweet. There we go. And so the thought process there was I would kill him with a Furious Charge. Jane Czar would be able to get back in my hand. And that's the beauty of Lelith, is you can have a card basically dead, but not actually dead, and still have it have a life later in the game. Because it is able to pop back on the board like that. Ooh, interesting. Now this is a bit tricky, because I could put the... Yeah, we'll do that. We'll put the Incar in there, because even if he kills the first copy, he's not... Oh, that was a good call. Ooh, man, okay. So why was that a good call? I already have that target acquired, so it doesn't matter that much. But I do not want that thing shooting at the second life of the Incarn, because that will outright kill him. No problem whatsoever. And one of the great things about Lelith that I talk up a lot is even if I play a card that... So one card did redeploy to my hand. 2 others did not, but I can still choose to move them, because once you redeploy a card, that gives you the opportunity to move another card. I'm trying to remember if Rowboat himself has a shield. I don't think he does. He does not. Okay, so I do probably want to make sure that I have the Solitaire alive to deal with him. And notice I'm really focusing on bringing down this guy because I don't want to deal with Big Game Hunter. And I'm basically kind of just stalling this thing because I doubt I'm going to be able to kill it before I take down Guilliman himself. But so here, let's do this. Dun dun dun. That's a lot of hit points, buddy. But man, we can do some damage at 400. 400 deck points. 490 damage. Jeez. But we got this handily. First try. Look at that. I say that. Watch me mess this up. But no. 108. 100. But no, we are not going to take any risks with this. Not wreck his butt. So there we go. Comfortably. Do we psychic? Do we melee? I'm going to punch him. I'm going to punch him. Because of all the times he's beaten the heck out of me before. So there we go. That was first try, and that was Lelith, our melee Lelith. Hopefully that was helpful. I didn't really talk a whole lot through the strategy behind what I was doing, but hopefully it was clear. I was trying to keep my heavy hitters alive. And that's the thing about it, is you get a kill, hide. Get a kill, hide. So you're able to stretch out the hit points of all of your cards and also amplify their attacks because they're able to use their on-drop attacks multiple times. So very effective against Guilliman because he doesn't have those additional lives, didn't have a ton of shields. I don't think he had any taunt in there. I was fortunate being able to take out Tigurius that successfully or that quickly, so that was good. But yeah, and that's it. I'll leave it there. Hopefully that's helpful. Good luck, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions or I can do any suggestions. We're gonna do one real quick last look at the individual decks that I used. Oh, she's so good. Actually, we can't because they're not saved, but this is totally worth it just to get the 5 copies of Lelith. She is a phenomenal warlord, both ridiculously powerful and super fun to play. So there we have it, all of it. Port Demesnus is wrecked, and I did sacrifice many Aeldari lives to do it, as per the fluff. But yeah, good luck out there. Yeah, let me know how you do.